Yo guys, welcome to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom and Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks.
And today we've got two extra special guests of Tim Lovejoy and Blake Fallows. I think I've said that right. I'm very sorry if I haven't. How are you guys doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, Blake's the only person I know who's plural, so you did get it right. Fallows.
Yeah, Fallows. I'll take that. I've been called a lot worse, but yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for coming on. First off, Tim's obviously a Chelsea fan, as am I. So big game this evening. We're going to do a live stream for it on our channel with two of our mates as like a watch along. Are you nervous for later, Tim?
No, not really. This pandemic's just like I don't know. I find it obviously because Liverpool are our big rivals. It's all one of our big rivals. There's always a lot to play for, and I get lots of grief off Liverpool fans, and my co-presenter on Sundays Liverpool fan, but nothing seems to mean anything to me at the moment. It didn't last year. I mean, interesting when Liverpool won the league, and as I point out to all my friends who support Liverpool, you know, it's taken them God knows how long to win the league, and then they win it, and it's got an asterisk next to it saying doesn't really count because it's in the middle of a pandemic, there's no fans, and it was all a bit of bullshit. So I'm allowed to swear on your podcast, by the way?
Yes, you can go ahead, mate.
Hold on. You said yes, and Ben went no.
No, I said I was like,
okay, sorry. All right. So I just like I was. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Don't you find it weird? Like it's the weird time to win the league, and obviously City are just romping it now. So all the rest of it just picking up the pieces.
Yeah. Well, we were trying to bridge the gap between the top two and us. I guess we bridged the gap between us and Liverpool, but that's more because they fell off. But no, yeah, City. You must be happy, Ben. City.
I'm obviously really happy, but I think that stuff about there not being fans and stuff has been a thing that's sort of been come up like every time like one of these top six matches comes along and it's a 0-0. It's like, well, there's no fans, they're not getting that extra sort of, you know, the 12th man sort of thing, like that sort of stuff. But even though City are, obviously I'm really happy that City are like far ahead, winning, blah blah blah. It still doesn't feel like proper football. I think I think every football fan can agree on that. It's not proper football because without fans, it's not. There's something not quite right. You're watching games and you're just like, no, I'm not sure what's.
Not only that, Ben, you've also got the problem with VAR, which Blake and I have just discussed on our podcast, of how fucking painful VAR is to watch at the moment. It's just. You know, I say this to Blake every week on the podcast. It's like, am I the only one in reality anymore? It's like the game wasn't that bad that we have to change the game and make it so everything is now a decision which has to go to a TV screen. It's like Mo Salah diving around for fun, but someone had their hand on him, so it's a foul. That's not a foul. You know, that was a dive, not a foul. And when Graham Souness sat in the Sky Studios 3 times in a row, he went, yes, Salah dived. Everyone else was looking at him like, no, but there was a bit of contact. And it's like the game has gone absolutely crazy. So, Blake, I don't stop banging on about it, do I?
No. We actually mentioned the Chelsea game on Sunday, when we both saw, even Tim being a Chelsea fan, what we thought was quite a blatant handball, and even if it was checked, it wasn't given. So we just don't. You don't even know anymore, do you, whether it's going to be given or not? It's incredible.
No, you don't have VAR in the Championship, am I right?
No, we don't. We have it in cup games if it's played at a Premier League ground. So we had it when we played Palace in the cup, and we've had it 2 or 3 times.
That must be nice. I'd love to have that worry.
Tom, the Championship is played in England. You spoke to him like it was a Spanish league.
No. I don't follow.
Down there in the City Championship. Yeah.
I don't follow it that closely. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got floodlights and everything in the Championship now. It's brilliant.
Well, without VAR, it's so different.
It's a different sport. It is a different sport. It's complete. Honestly, it's completely different, and
it's a breath of fresh air to watch.
Yeah, it is genuine. I mean, there's still terrible officiating, but at times, but I can accept that because that's what the sport is. There's going to be decisions that are made, but I don't know if I could cope when Derby in the Premier League next season. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cope.
When?
I've got to say this. Blake's friends with some players, and I'm not going to mention any of their names because it's not fair. But he told me that one of the players said when they came up a few seasons ago from the Championship to the Premier League, not only is the game quicker, because that is what is. You look at City and stuff. Chelsea. We've just got pacey players everywhere, all over the pitch. That's how you have to play it. But also, there's a lot more diving going on down in the Championship. It's a kind of they still have challenges and tackles and stuff down there, and no VAR. And so I don't know. It looks competitive down there, if you ask me.
Yeah. A bit more honest, I think. But even the City versus Wolves a few nights ago, I mean, it didn't have a bearing on the end result. We won 4-1, but when Laporte's goal was ruled out, you're like, here's another VAR check. Just like,
that was ridiculous.
You can't,
VAR.
like a little brush on the head or something. You just can't get away from it. But it's because they literally look at like every little thing. So it's I remember watching the match of the day, and Alan Shearer and that are talking about it, saying we were told when it was first introduced, it was going to be for clear and obvious errors, and it wasn't going to impact the feel of the game, the flow of the game, anything. And it's just been the complete opposite. It's just completely destroyed like that flow.
I just said on our podcast the biggest problem with it is goal line technology. It's because that was so successful. We assumed every decision could be made like that, and it can't, because football is a game where sometimes you'd go, yeah, maybe that's a foul. Sometimes you wouldn't, and it's not tennis and cricket. You can't have a snickometer or did the ball touch the line, because it's not a game like that. And now I was talking to Blake on our podcast just a minute ago. I don't know if you've seen the rounds on social media, this Australian referee who goes over and talks to the linesman, and then he talks to the VAR, and then he goes, I'll sell it to them, and then goes to the monitor to sell it to them. And everyone's hailing it as the future. And I'm going, we lost the fucking plot here. What the hell is that? That's like, what is going on? Just make a sodding decision and get on with the game. And it's like, we've gone so far down the VAR route that we think that turning football into rugby is a good idea.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
We've spoken a lot about kind of like the rugby refs compared to the football refs. The rugby refs, I know it's obviously very different, as in it's very clear cut often with rugby. It's very difficult to make a mistake, unless you're Wales on the weekend and you get 2 free tries. But I'm a bit salty from that. I do watch a lot of rugby and Wales.
I don't watch rugby, so I don't know whether that's funny or not.
I go to Swansea in Wales. So go to uni in Wales even. Oh, blimey. And so obviously I got a lot of Welsh friends who will, sending me messages straight away after the game. Oh, you didn't win. That happens with football as well, which is nice. But there's a lot more respect with the rugby refs, I've noticed, and they. With TMO, you can hear what the ref says, you can hear what the VAR says, you can hear what the linesman says, you can hear what the explanation to the players. Would that be too difficult to integrate, because it causes a lot less confusion, like with the Atletico Madrid game, where Giroud scores a banger, I'm stood up, goal, and then I'm waiting for 2 minutes looking at a blank screen because they can't show the replays, having no idea what's happening. I don't know what to do with that.
They need to communicate it better. We've touched on this before. Me and Tim spoke about it, that when fans do come back and it's going to be like this, they get end up with some angry fans, and it's going to be. I know you can't show contentious replays anyway, but if you're sat in the ground for 2 minutes every 5 minutes, not knowing what's going on, it's not going to work, is it? There's got to be some kind of communication, and like you say with rugby, footballers aren't rugby players, are they? I think that's one issue with it, that you're not. You only got to look at Rashford and Maguire last night, how things can get picked up. You've only got to have a few of them instances, haven't you, to get it, ref getting told to fuck off a couple of times and stuff like that, whether it works or not. But there's got to be some clarity for fans when fans do go back into the stadium, because otherwise you're going to be paying 60-70 quid for a ticket and not knowing what's going on.
I mean,
years and years ago, there was a referee called David Ellery. He was a school teacher as well, because they were sort of like, I don't know, semi-amateur, I think, back in the day, and they and they mic'd him up and did the whole match, and Arsenal were playing, and it's brilliant because Tony Adams starts going, "You're a cheat at him," like that. It's so it's interesting if they do if they do mic up refs, footballers will have to change pretty quickly their language and the way they speak to people. There's no reason why they won't. When they started just sending people off for tackles from behind or whatever it was, the players soon changed because they realised they were having early baths.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that came around as well because of that rumour that the ref in the Chelsea United game said to Maguire that if I give this, there's gonna be a lot of talk afterwards. And I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but like that's why this has come up again about micing up refs and stuff. But I mean, it's quite. I mean, the FA have not decided to like pursue any charges against Solskjaer and Shaw, but it's quite serious accusations. That it's like it's borderline match fixing for a ref to be like, well, I'm not going to give this because there'll be talk afterwards. Like, but I don't know if like it'd be investigated or anything like that. I don't know, but it's quite serious. I think stuff like that.
The thing is about VAR is there was a lot of the pros on TV and a lot of the commentators who wanted it. And then when it came along, they were all excited, and they're all going, because this is what we need for the game. Then it became really apparent quickly that it wasn't working. And all the players and all the managers and, were all going, this just isn't working. And yet we're still going with it. Why don't they get rid of it? Work out how to, maybe they could use it down in the championship for a while, the Spanish league in the championship, to trial it on those losers and then bring it back to try it at Derby County every week and then bring it back to the big boys when they've actually fixed it.
Do you want that, Blake?
It might help. I mean, Derby's got nothing to lose at the minute. We'll try anything to try and pick up a.
That'll be in the Prem by then, anyway. So they are.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, whatever. Anything to make the games a bit more interesting at the minute. Put 2 balls on, have 3 refs. I don't care. Try whatever.
My girlfriend says like when she's watching a game, she'll say like, "Oh, when's the second ball coming on the pitch?" just to make it interesting.
Well, that's a crap idea. Not done much football with her again. Blake is, by the way, Blake's a bit bitter at the moment because his team lost 4-0. I don't know if you've been looking at the Derby results, but they lost to Cardiff. And he's not happy about it. So
Forest.
Yeah. Well, that's the bare minimum you expect from that game. Really, I think I'd take a point. It's one of them games. I think if you offer me 1-0 before the game, I'd take it. It's just one of them. You don't lose it. Probably should have won it. Again, if we'd have had VAR, we probably would have won it. But they're lucky to get back into it. Really, being honest.
Tom, Ben, did you know that Forest in 1979 and 1980 won the European Cup and Leicester City won the Premier League? Well, Derby, what have they been doing?
1972, 1975 champions of England, and they won the Charity Shield.
They both. What was his name? Not Brian Clough. Nigel Clough.
Brian Clough. Well, we've had Brian Clough was at both clubs, and Nigel Clough managed us later on. Yeah. He did both of those, didn't he? Yeah, he did. Yeah. So the road between Derby and Nottingham is called Brian Clough Way. So the link between the cities is Brian Clough. I mean, he did famously say that he wished he'd have done it all at Derby. But obviously we can't change history. He loves Derby and he lived in Derby, and I won't go into it too much.
Are you happy with Rooney so far? I
think, given the current state of the club, I think he's performing miracles because we've had games where we've not had enough players to be on the bench. We're in financial dire straits, on the verge of administration. Players going out. I think the big signing this season was Colin Kazim Richards, who's 34 and came from the Mexican second division. So
I was doing a celebration, which is a visual thing, which you won't be. Is this audio? This podcast?
Yes, this will be out on YouTube and Spotify. So
they can see us.
They can see us. Yes.
Oh God, should have done me. Yeah. But yeah, Rooney's doing really well, and he couldn't not get the job because he came in a very difficult. We were bottom of the league and just lost at home to Wickham, who. The whipping boys, and so he's wonders. I'm really happy with Rooney, and hopefully, if the club gets sorted out financially and off the pitch, hopefully it's a good opportunity for him because we've got a good track record of giving people opportunities. So, yeah, I'm optimistic about Rooney. I just hope he sticks around.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that there's been a takeover agreed like months ago, but nothing's happened since. Something I don't know what's quite going on there.
Yeah, it's a bit of an ongoing joke on mine and Tim's podcast. At the start of every episode, he asks me whether the takeover's gone through. November, they said it'd be done within 2 days, and it's still ongoing.
Right.
There's all sorts of different rumours and stuff that obviously I won't go into, but I think it's the same people that are buying, that have gone in to buy Derby, the team that went to Newcastle and the league said no, and Mike Ashley got rid of, and they went to Liverpool and the Premier League said no. And they've come to Derby and kind of done the same thing. So it doesn't look like it's going to happen now, unfortunately. So
what I love about football is if you listen to the first ever podcast I did with Blake, I'm questioning whether I still want to do football, like be involved in football, or because it drives me mad sometimes. But it's the stories and the intrigue of football always gets to me. And the reason why our podcast started was I was just chatting to Blake, produces my other podcast, and we just started talking all the time. And every time we talked, it always ended up talking about football. And now I've got to a ridiculous stage where I look out for Derby County's football results all the time, and Forest's as well, because I want to see how their rivals are doing. It's mental. It's nothing to do with me. Don't care, but I know it has a lot to do with him. So I start looking at it. And I bet that's the same for you too. You're looking at Chelsea's results and City's results every week going, I wonder how they're getting on.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty much all we talk about, isn't it? It's just Chelsea, City. We have 2 other lads we have on a Sunday, Liverpool and Arsenal. So we literally just talk about how each team are doing. Take the mick out of the Liverpool fan because Liverpool are doing really badly, lost 5 in a row at home, stuff like that. So that's kind of how it started. I mean, me and Ben have actually only met once in person, which is a bit crazy. Yeah, we've been doing this since last June. So
hold on. So how do you know each other then?
So his best mate at home is my best mate at uni.
Yeah.
So
we have a mutual friend basically, who I went to school with and went to uni with, Tom. But yeah, I mean, on like the sort of following other clubs and stuff like that, even because Tom lives in Swansea, I'm checking Swansea results, thinking, how's Swansea doing? They're looking like they could go up.
Yeah, I really want that to happen as well, because if I can get student tickets to the Chelsea game, the Arsenal game, City game next season at Swansea, that'd be fantastic.
How far do you go? Do you then end up checking the Cardiff results, because they did all right this week?
I did check the recent.
Fuck off.
Yeah, I did.
So you're right. Come on, you're mutual friends. I'm intrigued now. How did the podcast happen then? Like, our podcast was obvious because it was producing my podcast, and we ended up talking. Then one day I said, "Oh God, I'll do a football podcast, shall we?" And we just started doing it. And so, how did yours come about?
So, well, I've liked doing YouTube kind of my whole life basically, since I was like a young teenager. Done bits and bobs here and there, but when I got to about 17, I think I got really into podcasts basically. I listened to them whilst I went for a run, just anything really. I listened to a podcast, and I was kind of trying to put the groundwork in to to create a podcast. And then I realized, why don't I talk about football? That's all I talk about. I go to a pub, talk about football, see my mates talk about football. It's literally the only thing we talk about. And basically kids said that Ben would probably be up for it. And the rest is history, I guess.
It was Tom's brainchild really, and then he just asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, all right, and that was it basically. But yeah, Tom's well, from previous podcasts as well, he's been wanting to do it for quite a while. So once he found me, managed to get it going, sort of thing.
So Ben, do you enjoy being a City fan?
I do. At the moment, not earlier in the season because we were poor, but now it's fantastic.
Because I think because you've got everything at the moment, you've got Pep, and you've got a great team, a massive, great big stadium. You've got trophies. What?
Lots of money.
And more money than anyone else. Yeah, but eventually, I think being a Chelsea fan, as Tom will tell you, I think the sheen wears off it a bit after a while, because you start going, You know, when we got rid of Frank Lampard, and every time you get a manager and you like them, and you just keep sacking them and just going for results. And I don't know how you feel, Ben, but sometimes you're sitting there going, "What am I actually supporting?" Because, you know, and I've mentioned this. We talked to Blake a lot about this. Is sometimes you're sitting there thinking, I just feel we did something on our podcast about finances of football, and Chelsea and City, we're both trophy clubs. We're owned by people who are using us as a trophy, and suddenly there's something which doesn't sit quite right. You suddenly think, I might as well be supporting their yachts, because they just, every time it's not winning, they just throw money at it. Now it works and it's successful, but as the fans, what's your part in that? So to begin with, like Chelsea, when we started winning everything, it was really exciting. And now I sometimes find, Tom, I don't know what you think, but I sometimes find it's a tiny bit soulless sometimes, especially when we sack Frank.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you later on the podcast what you thought about that, but I kind of hoped Lampard would be the change, because obviously I've grown up my entire life with win a trophy, sack the manager, win a trophy, sack a manager, win a trophy, sack a manager, because I was born in 2000 and that's all I've known. And you kind of want to, I don't know, it's like with Tuchel's only been given 18 months in his contract, but I think he's got a clause, if he wins the league, he gets like an extra whatever, but I don't know, it is, I understand what you mean, it is demoralising sometimes, just falling almost in love with the manager and a team, and then that team is gone within the next season, that manager's gone within the next season, and it's kind of like, you just have to accept it, I guess. It's kind of
what Tom was saying on a previous podcast, when Lampard was first appointed. Oh well, I mean, we started after that, but when we were talking about Lampard, he was like, "Well, we're changing. The club's changing. We've changed. This is a new direction. We're trying something different." And I was like, "They'll do that until it doesn't work, and they'll just revert to type." And that's what happened. And then obviously Tom was saying like, he was really hoping that Lampard would be that person. And I know Tom's dad was saying that he felt that Lampard got it too soon, stuff like that. Which, I mean, that's a fair comment, but it's I still obviously as a City fan, I've not had a club legend come back and manage blah blah blah. But I can see that there's such a connection with this player and manager, that whatever decision the club makes, you're gonna not be happy with it. And I know that's obviously, the club can't do anything about that, but you still can't help having those feelings, because it's not great as a club when you're having to keep on chopping and changing because there's no continuity. And so like, obviously, but I don't know whether that's the case of football's changed, or because like when, you know, United saw Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, they were from 20 odd years ago. Now it's usually managed to have like 3 years and then they're gone. So I don't know if that's a symptom of football changing, or that clubs just don't do that anymore. I don't know what your opinions on that are.
Well, I reckon Pep could stay at City as long as he wants, because he's going to keep winning, isn't he? Because he's such a good manager, and I think that's what you've got to buy into. I agree with Tom. When Lampard came in, started playing Tammy and Mason and all those guys, who they did well at Derby, didn't they, Blake, those boys, Frank and Mason. But when they started doing well, we started thinking, oh, hold on, we're gonna start playing our youth here. It's a different direction, and it's really exciting. I hate to admit this on this podcast, but there's a little bit of all of us that's a little bit jealous of United because of their youth policy and the way that club's set up and the way Fergie did. We've just done this thing on our podcast where we flipped a coin. I do a poll every week, and I'm trying to get Don't Care to win. And I always do 2 options and Don't Care. And so I did, what's the best club in Manchester, United, City, or Don't Care? Don't Care wins, by the way. But I said, come on, let's argue the case. We'll pick, one of us will argue United, one of us will City. So we flicked a coin. I got United and Blake got City. And interestingly, Man United have got more homegrown players than any of the other European elite clubs at 40.7%. And they went not so long ago, a landmark where they went 4,000 consecutive games featuring at least one academy graduate. I mean, like City and Chelsea, every time we want another player, we just buy somebody else's. And I think it's a bit of a problem. So I was very excited by the idea that we would be playing our youth and bringing them through. But, you know, we're going to go back to just buying the best players to win the league.
Well, that's happening right now with Tammy. He's worried that we're going to bring in a top striker. Like, well, I'm not sure we're necessarily going to get Haaland. He's probably going to go City, let's be honest. But we want to get that caliber of striker, that kind of striker. And Tammy's like, well, what's my plan? What's my plan with the Chelsea? With Chelsea, then do I sign a new contract? Do I go on loan again? Do I get sold? Because Tammy wants to be the number 9 for Chelsea, doesn't he? He wants to be the top dog, scoring all the goals, and he's technically he's our top goal scorer this season, right?
What would you do if you were him?
Well, obviously, I'm a big Chelsea boy from the heart, so I'm happy to be a sub, to be honest, playing for Chelsea. But as a professional, if we get a striker, he probably should go. As a professional, but at the same time, actually, he'd be a really, like, all of our second choice strikers recently have been Batshuayi and Loic Remy. They've been on like 2 of our most recent backup strikers. Tammy's a much, much better backup striker than they would be.
He's not going to want it.
Well, he's not going to want to be that, exactly. So it's tough. What do you think?
Go to a club like Wolves and do really well, like a club like Wolves. So he's not going to hang about. If he's signing a striker, I think he's gone.
Oh yeah.
What?
Do you think the same, Tim?
If I was him, I'd hang around and see because the idea of going to Wolves, no disrespect to Wolves, is when you're at one of the elite clubs, or one of the big clubs, and I'm only saying we're one of the elite ones because we've got money, and Roman's throwing money at us again. So we're just we've got the option to be up there with City now. I think we've got the right manager probably in place to do it as well. So you want to hang around and try and play in at the top level as long as you possibly can, I imagine. And the idea of dropping down now, you're never going to get back up there, are you? You want to leave to go to at least one of the bigger clubs. You would hope you go to Spurs or, oh God, can you imagine? you try and go to somewhere. I mean, yeah, you could probably go to Spurs because Harry's going to leave and he's going to go United. So or he's going to City, isn't he?
Yeah, he might go to City.
City are buying everyone, aren't they?
Yeah. We're getting Cristiano and Lionel and all them. So super team. No, I think. I mean, on the playing the youth players in Lampard's first season, Chelsea actually became one of the clubs that fans in general like. They liked Chelsea because they went from being this club who obviously spent loads of money, blah blah blah, and everyone was like, oh, they're just buying the league, blah blah blah. And then when they started playing the youth, it was like there's a sort of a fairy tale sort of narrative with Chelsea, and now it's just gone again. So.
Like, do you know what it's like? Chelsea's big rivals, the Leeds. I'm a lot older than you, Tom. Do you find Leeds are still rival for you in your way or not?
I mean, I told him that Leeds were your rival.
Yeah.
I did.
They were huge rivals. When I stopped going because I was playing football all the time, I did really try and go to Leeds away because it was always such a big game for us. Spurs and Leeds were always huge, and when they've come up, it's it's so good they've come up with such a good team because they can beat us and they can beat anyone on their day because it's just so good to watch, and I think they've become the favourite. But it's good that we're not going up against them thinking we're going to hammer them. That last game was brilliant. I really enjoyed watching Leeds play football. So it's great how football fans get behind something if it's got a meaning, which is what I'd say. It's very hard to get behind Man City at the moment. But I like Pep and I like all the players and the skill and the level of football they play is phenomenal. But I don't care whether they win anything because they've obviously got so much money. Like everyone hated Chelsea because we just bought our way into it. So there's a tiny bit of me which really admires Jurgen Klopp because he came into that club, and from the moment he went in, he learned the name of everybody, the people who do the laundry, the tea ladies, everyone, and he understood it. And he told the fans what their purpose was in the club. What's your purpose in Man City or Chelsea? What is our purpose? What? Just to brag and gloat because they don't need our money, do they? So sometimes I worry about what it is that we're buying into. Blake's a Derby county, used to go home and away all the time. Can't at the moment because of the pandemic. But he buys into. He went to that season. I don't know if you. Sorry, Blake. But I don't know if you know that Derby County hold the record. It was the least amount of points ever in the Premier League. And they only won one match, didn't you?
Yeah, the Sheffield United won last night 1-0 with 10 men, and that took them off 11 points. So it's still ours. So that's confirmed for at least another season. So yeah, I went into every game that season. But in the Championship, it's every week. So we've got Coventry on Saturday, and Coventry is still a big game for us. It's still like a massive. Every game there's something on everything. So I could never imagine getting to a point where it's a shock. It's an event if Derby lose, or if it's like a shock, because every game there's something on every single game, and the Championship is, I know it's a cliche, but the most competitive league in the world. From the bottom, from second, third, bottom, all the way up to the playoff places, anybody can beat anyone in that league. It's a cliche, but anyone can beat anybody. It's incredible. So I don't know if Derby went into like a Wolves kind of thing that got promoted and became established. I think I'd quickly become bored. I genuinely do think I've become bored with the Premier League and how it is, because I've known it for so long how it is.
Fair enough. Well, I think kind of on the going to games and stuff, I had a season ticket when I was younger for a couple of years, and I don't know if it's just because I was spoiled growing up as a Chelsea fan, but whenever I went to a game and we lost, just the rest of the day was written off. I was just like, I'm not speaking to anyone. We lost to Chelsea. Chelsea lost. It's like,
don't get me wrong, I still get Mardy when Derby lose. It's just I expect it a little bit more than you do.
It probably is that, isn't it?
I've got to say, I actually quite like it when we lose, because we went through a stage for so long of just winning and thinking we should win everything, and I got nostalgic for when we were crap. So it kind of feels weird. You sort of end up feeling like Manchester United. I promise you, Ben, one day you're going to start going, hold on, and you're looking around going, it was really lovely to get behind, especially when we went through, we went through, for me, the 90s and stuff, and then you end up with all the Vialis and Zolas and Gus Poyets, all those personalities and characters who you really believed in, and I was lucky enough to meet them all. And then Jose comes along and you're like, oh my god, this is just the most exciting ride. And that's where City are at the moment. You've got the best manager probably in the world, or at least Europe, and so it's exciting times for City, and the football they're playing is unbelievably good. It's just hammering everybody. No one stands a chance against you, do they?
I mean, because I was a fan before pre-2008 takeover, so I do remember the sort of Stuart Pearce and Sven-Göran Eriksson and that sort of stuff, where it wasn't quite so rosy. So that's probably a difference between me and Tom, because Tom, the takeover had happened by the time you were
Cognitive.
Remember. Yeah. But yeah, the back then. Because we had moved to this, I mean, the Etihad now, it was City of Manchester Stadium back then. There was that criticism about new stadiums and stuff. But so when team new stadium, the atmosphere is not good, all that sort of thing. But there's still that sort of connection, and it's like, I guess it comes with becoming a global team that. When you go to games, not everyone there is going to be a local person going to a game. It's just not how it is. But back even when we were in the third division, this is why. I mean, I get the sort of the Etihad, crap atmosphere sort of stuff. But even back when we were in the third division, we had the highest attendance in that division. So the fans are there. But I think part of the symptom of it being quiet and the atmosphere not being as good is that sort of globalization of the club. What
keeps the fans away? Do you think if you're getting full houses in Division 3 when you're going all over the country taking thousands of fans, and now you can't fill a 50,000 seat stadium when you're the best team in Europe?
I think I remember watching an interview with Liam Gallagher, and he was like, "I've stopped going to games." And the interviewer was like, "Oh, why?" He said, "Well, I was in my box and I started celebrating, and someone went, oh, be quiet, calm down." And he was like, "What's the point in going to a game if you can't celebrate and stuff?" So you got these probably slightly more well-off people in the stadium, or a bit more, well-to-do and stuff like that, which is putting off everyone else possibly. But You know, they've got. I mean, it's not to say that there isn't good atmospheres, because I remember games that I've been to where it's been fantastic. The games against the top six are usually quite good atmospheres. The game against PSG in the quarterfinal of the Champions League was a quality atmosphere. So it's not that it can't happen, but it's obviously a lot rarer. But I don't know what it's like at Stamford Bridge.
Well, it's always amazing, mate. It's always amazing.
Well, my older brother is actually a Man City season ticket holder.
Right.
So I actually went, and he's older than me, so he's mid 36, 7. So I actually used to go to quite a few City games, and I've seen the good atmospheres for like mundane games. But I've also, like you were touching on, Ben, just before the money came in with, like, I can remember there was quite a few weird instances of like David James going up front and conceding 8 at Middlesbrough and stuff like that. But sometimes that's put, like Jim said about me being a dog, sometimes that's part of it. Maybe it is a little bit boring to go and sit there and think we've got Wolves today, we're going to get a lead. How many are we going to score today? And go on, and cheers, boys. Whereas, I don't know, is it taking a little bit of the edge away from what football really is?
I bang on a Blake about this all the time, but supporting a football club is more than just watching you win. That's the plus side of it. But only have one team wins the league, only one team wins the cup, you know, etc., etc. And I think, you know, you get jealous of. You sort of get a bit jealous sometimes when you watch City go down the leagues and they're just having a laugh, taking that many fans. They're having a laugh in their misery. You get a bit jealous when Jurgen Klopp comes in and starts, you know, really rallying the club. It's like, it's great. You really buy into something. And, you know, and I thought that's what happened with us and Frank briefly for a season where suddenly we're going, yeah, and we're playing youth players as well. It's like, yeah, we're the best club ever and we own our pitch. You know, so we literally are the best club there is. And then suddenly it's like, well, let's sack him and bring someone else. And you're like, oh yeah, we're back to that again. And, you know, and it's worked for Roman. Has it worked for the fans? Well, if you want to just win every week, yeah, it does work for the fans. I'll tell you a good fact though, about football fans. Chelsea have the fans who live the furthest away from the ground, and Liverpool have the fan base which lives closest to the ground. Ken Bates told me that once. So it's probably true. He used to be our chairman back in the day, a few years ago. But yeah, because all our fans come from the home counties. I mean, there are some from Fulham and all that place, but all the home counties come in, you know, Hertfordshire and Buckinghamshire and all that places. They all come in to watch Chelsea Football Club. Don't know why I've just added that into it, but we were talking about fans, so I thought I'd throw it in there.
I mean, it's
even very interesting.
Even when we're talking about sort of where is the place for the fans in with these clubs, it's even sort of the morality of the owners is like in question, because obviously it's fantastic they're like invest in your club, all that sort of stuff, but Roman Abramovich isn't a saint, and neither is Sheikh Mansour at City. So, you know,
Ben, it's weird because I've said this a lot, and we've mentioned it. I'm not sure football aligns itself to my values sometimes, and I do struggle with that, especially when we're about to go and play a World Cup in Qatar soon. I'm like, hold on, are we? Why are we not boycotting that? And yet we're not going to. And you know, and it's like, really? Why are, you know, as a nation of people, we should be going, that doesn't fit with our values. And then also with some of the decisions which happen, but all football fans just go, give us the money so we can. Obviously, it's understandable because you want to see the best players. And so if someone's coming in with a gazillion pounds, like it's happened at Chelsea and City and is about to happen at Derby County, then, you know, and they start buying all the great players, you start to go, this is fantastic, because you want to watch good players at the end of the day, don't you? And that's the important thing. You want to watch good football and good players.
Definitely. Well, should we switch to the kind of the questions we always ask our guests about kind of their history of their clubs? We normally do, like, so if you had a Chelsea fan on, we'd say their history of Chelsea interview, do it for Derby. I've actually never had a Derby fan on, so
surprise.
We'll start with Tim, and then we'll go to you, Blake. What's your first game in your memory that you can think of?
Do you know, I don't know. I get asked this a lot. I remember doing an interview about it years ago when I was doing Soccer AM, and what I think it might be Sheffield Wednesday, but I just don't know. I just remember going up there with my mate Ginger, walking up the Fulham Road, and the amount of the smells, the police, the noise. That's sort of my first memory of it. We've actually just on the podcast interviewed Mickey Thomas today, and I'm older than you guys. And in 1984, 85, I was going home and away with Chelsea, up and down the country, and we had Mickey Thomas, who is he played for Man United, Chelsea, played for Wrexham, and he played for Dad. Had a loan spell at Derby County too. But we were just discussing the good old days of that, and it brought back all those memories of going to football. It was so important. I was playing a lot of football then as well, but it just reminded me so much of going to the games. The other day I was looking through a load of old programs, and I found one for Oldham Away, and I was like, I went to Oldham Away. What? I don't remember that, but you know, Blake used to go backwards and forwards to watch Derby County. You just go backwards and forwards. Yeah, but it was a long time ago, and it was back in the 80s. I was going to football.
How about you, Blake?
I'm the same as Tim. I can't remember, but I couldn't put my finger on the first game because it would have been at the baseball ground, which was Derby's old ground. Have you ever heard of the baseball ground?
Right now.
No.
I've played there. Great stadium.
So we moved from the baseball ground in 1997, but to Pride Park now. The first game I remember going to was, I think, 99-2000. We played West Ham at home. I think we lost 2-1. But I remember walking with my dad towards Pride Park, and a coach of West Ham fans coming past, and all the windows were smashed, and being about 8 or 9 and thinking, like, not being able to get my head around it, because obviously at that age you don't realise it. But I remember that the windows were smashed on this bus, and that's the only reason I can remember West Ham. So that's the first one I think I remember, losing 2-1 to West Ham at home in 2000-ish.
Right.
We were discussing City the other day, actually, because the first ever live non-flight football match was when all the live football started, was Manchester City versus Chelsea on a Friday night, and I went up there. It was in the 80s sometime, I can't remember when. And what was so funny about it was the Kipak Stadium, which was just such a stand, which was just kind of so weird because everyone else has ends and you were on the side. But every time the ball came across, because people weren't used to TV cameras then. It's so funny now, but every time the ball went anywhere near, you see them all doing that. You could look on YouTube and everyone was like waving at the camera. It was just that thing that people used to do. It's kind of weird.
Some fans still do that if they see themselves on the big screen.
You see it when they're in the studio, like live at a match. You see them turn around like, right, and they're trying to do a serious punditry, and it's just people messing about, innit?
I miss the fans. Don't you miss the biggest thing about this pandemic is not having the fans in, like the noise they put on the football. Do you listen to it with or without the noise? I listen to it with the noise.
Yeah,
but the noise is just crap, and after a while it becomes annoying. But it's better than, I think, silence. Otherwise, it just sounds like a training game, doesn't it?
Yeah. With that though, with the fans in the stadium going to games. So one of my best mates, I basically made him a Chelsea fan now. Just because I took him to 2 live games at Stamford Bridge, and that's all it took, is going to 2 games. He wasn't really a football fan, and now he's as dedicated as I am to following Chelsea. So
poor lad.
I suppose it depends what games you take him to, you know.
I think one of them was a quarter-final game against United when Morata put it past De Gea with a header. I don't know if you remember that game. That was big. I remember that. I think that was the one. That was the game that turned him, and we beat United 1-0 in the quarter-final of the FA Cup. That's nice.
I took my daughter. I desperately wanted my daughters to like football, so I took them a couple of times to Stamford Bridge, and they were so bored. And I remember they were too young, maybe, but I remember I was like, they just didn't know what to do, and they were just like sitting there going, "Oh, Dad was so bored." They were kids, and I said, "Did you see that guy down there?" And they went, "Yeah." I said, "That's Ashley Cole, and that's Cheryl Cole's husband." And then they spent the whole time just watching Ashley Cole because they knew who Cheryl Cole was. So I thought that was a good old days.
What would you say your favourite ever game was? We'll start with Tim for Chelsea.
FA Cup final '97, because as a Chelsea fan, I never thought we would ever win anything. So to actually see us go and win something, to me was just. I remember going down to the Fulham Road after it, and opened up buses and stuff. They come through, and I remember thinking to myself, I was looking at all these little kids waving their flags and stuff and going, yeah. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, you don't know what it's like. We've never won anything. The only thing I've seen us win is the 4 Members' Cup against City. City, we beat City in the 4 Members' Cup. Yes, I think it was 5-4 or something. It was a mental match that at Wembley. But so it was. It was just, that was the start of it all. And so when people say the Champions League or the league, I mean the league was amazing, but watching us win the Champions League never was quite as good as winning the FA Cup. And I know it sounds mental to say that, but it was just because I couldn't believe we'd actually won something. We were always like, all my mates are Spurs and Arsenal, all that lot, and they all won loads of stuff, and we never won anything. So it was really lovely to actually see us win something. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
I think, Tom, did your dad say that as well? Or was it? I think we've had another Chelsea fan on who said that.
But it was one of, it's either my dad, my uncle, or my granddad said that. I can't remember which one it was, but it might have been 2 of them. But
yeah,
I think all 3 of them mentioned that game.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Tom's is the 2012 Champions League final because
No. My favourite game is the first leg of the Barcelona Champions League game, which I went to. The first leg with Drogba scored and won 1-0. I was 12 years old. I got thrown around the stadium like I was nothing. Just picked up by guys behind me and just thrown around when the final whistle blew. It was crazy. But Blake, what's your favourite ever game then?
Just quick, Tom, have you let your dad come on your podcast?
Yes, my dad's come on the podcast. My granddad's been on the podcast. Ben's dad's been on the podcast, and my uncle's been on the podcast.
I do a Derby County podcast, so my dad is desperate to come on the podcast. And I've not let him so far. I said if I get to 150 episodes, you can have a little run at. But he's every time I have someone on, when's my turn?
My dad was actually our first guest.
Blake's podcast is number 1, or was number 1 in the football charts, wasn't it? And number 3 or
number 2.
Number 2 in football, or number what? Where were you in the sports, and where were you in the?
I was number 2 in football and in the top 10 for sport on iTunes.
Because they love Derby County. There you go, up the Rams.
Up the Rams. Favourite game, FA Cup 4th round replay at the City Ground, 2008. Chris Commons left Forest in the summer to sign for Derby. Derby were 2-0 down 2-0 down just before half time, pulled one back, 1-3-2. Chris Commons scored the winner in the last minute, slid on his bum in front of the Derby fans. All the Derby fans were on the pitch around him, hugging him. It's just incredible. Even Leeds, I don't know if you saw the Leeds game 2 years ago now when Lampard was manager. Yeah. We beat Leeds in the second leg when no one expected us to win, and that was incredible. But nothing.
That was such a good game, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, just incredible. Incredible.
So funny how football works, because I was so supporting Frank because it was against Leeds as well, who's our rivals, and so I was watching that game going, that it's just such a great game to watch that. Yeah.
I did watch the promotion games that season. I remember because Frank Lampard was there, so watching for Lampard.
What's the best City game? The one where you won the league?
I mean, that's the classic one. I mean, it has to be that one, but there are others sort of a close second. Like obviously the 6-1 against United. That one sticks out because, like I said, I was obviously not for long, but I was a fan pre-2008. So even I getting a draw against United was a success. Like I never expected us to win against United, let alone by 5-6-1, because my dad was saying there was a period of time, I think it was the 90s, where if we lost by 1, that was a success. Like that the gulfing class between City and United at that time was just so ridiculous. But yeah, I'd probably say the United 6-1. I think just because I mean I've said this to Tom as well, that obviously I want to win the other matches against the other top 6, but really, I couldn't care less. The main match, the only match that I even get nervous for is the one against United. It's obviously.
Yeah, he's a wreck sometimes in the podcast before the United game.
Oh, it's like we have to win that game. Like that, it's the only game that I properly care about. And
the last minute, the City that league win. That was the last game of the season, wasn't it? Every game, everyone was playing, and that was live on TV. Were there 2 games running at the same time?
United game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, United finished just before our game finished, and then Aguero scored. And I think it was like Phil Jones is taking his shirt off and he's celebrating, running around Stadium of Light. And then Fergie's the news has come through, and you've got the fans on like the radios and the phones, like find out the result, and like what? And then Fergie's just laughing, like telling the players to come in. Phil Jones is like still got his shirt off, thinking, "What? I made myself look like a fool." Like, but yeah.
And what happened there, which was interesting, was all the other teams were playing, but that was on TV. And I decided not to go to Stamford Bridge to watch the game. I'd watch this play out. And I remember, I think I was tweeting about it or something, and all these Chelsea fans and some of my mates going, "What sort of fan are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, football. This is one of the best. This is one of the best things ever. Well, I'm going to miss that to go and watch some match which is never, doesn't have any reckoning on anything anymore." And it's like, "But you missed the players walk round." I went, "Yeah, but I saw one of the greatest endings to a football match." It was a great ending. That was, really good.
I remember seeing I think it's on the Man City YouTube channel. There's a documentary about it, and the media part of that documentary talking about sort of the person who was sort of producing and directing the coverage at the time. And the United match finished, and they cut it and went to the City match just as that move was starting, and then we went and scored. So they timed it just perfect for the coverage. Fantastic.
I actually went that day to Manchester because, as I mentioned, my older brother's a City season ticket holder. So Derby played on the Saturday, this was on the Sunday. I said, "I'll just come up with you, and just if City are going to win the league, I want to be in Manchester with you." So we went to the game. I went to, is it the Waldorf, the pub near the Manchester station where the City fans go? I went in there, which was rammed still. And then when they were losing with about 20 minutes to go, walked to the ground to kind of just wait for my brother and just see what was happening. And genuinely, hand on heart, there was people coming out the ground, grown men, like sitting on curbs in tears. And I'm talking to these people. I don't know what's going on in the ground, but then you hear the cheer and everybody runs back in. And I ran in with them, didn't have a ticket for the game, and just saw the celebration. So I didn't see any of the game. But went in and saw the celebrations. But that day as well, QPR stayed up that day as well, didn't they? So the QPR fans and the City fans were all dancing around together because they'd stayed up and City won the league. Incredible day.
What was that atmosphere like in there?
Oh, like nothing I've ever experienced, obviously. But when I went in, there's like fans on the pitch, which you don't see in the Premier League. Incredible. Honestly, people in tears, and it was unlike anything I've ever seen, including wins at Wembley and stuff like that. Just a different level of atmosphere to anything I've ever seen, ever.
Again, I think obviously, again, I wasn't a fan for long before the takeover, but those fans would have never have thought that they would have won the league
in that way.
No chance. Like it's just it's just like blows your mind. Like there's the saying, typical City. You always think something's going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. You always think you're like, oh well, maybe they're going to have a naff game, or maybe a decision's going to go. Like you just think they're going to make it hard for themselves, which usually they do. And I mean, recently it's been the Champions League that typical City.
Ben's not a very optimistic City fan, I've noticed.
Have you ever met an optimistic City fan? I don't think they exist.
Just think, right? Sorry about this, Blake, but just think, right? If you think Chelsea fans, right? We all went, "Oh, we're going to win the league," and we actually won it when Jose came in and everything. And City fans, you suddenly get the ingredients to win the league. Can you imagine being a Leicester City fan? You start, right? I'm sorry, Blake, but it's true. You start that season and you go, "Yeah, hopefully we'll get a cup run," and then you're like, keep on going. And then people are on TV going, Robbie Savage, who was an ex-Leicester player and all that lot, and Lineker and everyone, they're all going, no, but they can't maintain it. And they just keep winning or winning or winning. I mean, can you imagine what they went through? It just, I mean,
I don't think it's possible to imagine that unless you've experienced it. Like,
I remember there's a game they played against City, because City were like that season we were closest challengers until about Christmas, and they announced Guardiola was taking over, and we just fell away. But I think we played Leicester at home, and they beat us 3-1, and that was a game where I was like, they could, because they destroyed us. It was like these can do it. They could, like, these are serious about this. Because like Mahrez, I think, scored a couple, and Vardy scored one or something. And they're really good like that season.
They just sort of changed the way we saw football, didn't they? Early, they just weren't. I mean, they were speedy, they were quick. I watched them destroy us at Stamford Bridge too. They were just they were such a good team, and they.
I was at that game as well.
Sorry,
I think I was at that game as well.
I was definitely at that game because I was like, "Oh, this team are great." They were fantastic, and it was so good to see that actually happen, because I think it's only football where something like that can really happen. Yeah, great club, great team.
Definitely. Well, I got a next question for both of you. This might be a slightly harder one. Normally we've asked this to older people, and it takes a lot longer to kind of get an answer. There's a lot.
Good luck, Tim.
No, I meant my granddad. My granddad took.
All right.
I've dug myself a hole here. In your opinion, who are the top 5 greatest players to have played for Chelsea?
Zola won.
Yeah.
Too hard. Hullet was the one who changed it all for me. Because I couldn't believe we had a proper player playing for Chelsea, as in one of the big players in Europe. I could not believe that. I mean, you got to look at the team which won things. And I suppose you have to look at John Terry and Frank Lampard, because they were the stalwarts in the team. So there's your 4. And then I'll nod back to Paul Cannavale, because he was our first black player, and he went through so much shit. And he's not been well recently, actually, and he's a top man. And so I'll go back to him, because he made a difference and he made a change. And he was during that era, which you're way too young, all of you, to remember, where football was quite a nasty place to go sometimes. And he was one of the people who helped change it, and he sacrificed for all the great players we've got coming through now. So I'll go with him just because of that and what he had to go through. So there's my 5.
Yeah, well, good solid 5 to be fair. Blake, go on, top 5 Derby.
Well,
Will I know any of them?
Going it up now, are we? Is it players you've seen live? Have I got to have seen them?
Just your top 5 greatest players, in your opinion.
I'll do it. The ones I've actually seen, not like people who played years before. Number 1, Igor Stimac. Have you heard of Igor Stimac?
Yeah, great player.
Asanovic, who was a fellow Croatian. Stefano Aranio. Giles Barnes. And then I'll throw Rooney in, just because it was in. The only regret about Rooney getting the manager's job was we didn't get to see him on the pitch for Derby more in person, because I think I saw him maybe 5 times, and I've seen him dink a penalty in front of the South Stand, which is a big Derby end. Like, I've seen him take the mick, score 2 or 3 free kicks. So to see England's greatest ever goal scorer taking the mick in the Championship for Derby was a pleasure. So I'll throw Rooney into the last one.
We know him, at least.
Have you heard of Rooney? Have you? Fair enough.
I mean, with the next question, we've spoken about superstitions before. So I mean, mine sort of ended now, because we do predictions, and because we went on that run of not conceding. I predicted that we would concede every time. I would predict we win, but I'd predict we concede, because I knew we wouldn't concede. Obviously, but that ended, I think, with Everton. But do you have any superstitions before games?
No. Not really. Not before games. I have superstition before I do like podcasts and stuff like that, but not before football because I don't really feel I can affect it in any way. Not before I watch the Rams. No, not really.
What?
Before podcasts?
Yeah.
Go for a walk. I always go for before every podcast I do. I go for a walk. I think about what I'm doing before I have to go. I can't do it without going for a walk. I've got a loop that I do, which it was my lockdown loop originally, but I make my notes and then I think about them on my walk and come back and I'm fresh mind, podcast mode. There you go. Top tip for you boys. You want to be number 2? Go for a walk.
Good idea. Yeah, I don't have any either. I think they should. I think they should teach people, footballers especially, to get rid of their superstitions early. Because I played football with some ex-pros, and they've been wearing the same pants since they were like YTS boys, which you probably don't know what that is, but the youth team or whatever, and they've got the same pants, and I'm like, what the hell are you wearing those for? And they're like, they're my lucky pants. It's like, well, they're not, because you lost loads of matches, so that doesn't work. But I think players can I think sportsmen generally, I spent a lot of time around a lot of sportsmen, and there's a lot of they can end up having too many superstitions, and it becomes, it controls your life. Paul Gascoigne being the one that is the one who used to have it really badly, and I don't know if he still does, but we heard some great stories about him years ago. One where oh no, I won't go into it. Like, you get Gazza on here and he can tell you the stories.
Yeah, I think we have to get a little bit bigger to get Gazza on. That would be incredible.
Hold on, what you're saying? I'm not as big as Gazza.
I'm digging myself. I'm just going to keep on digging myself a hole here. Keep on digging.
Just do what you did to me. Go direct message.
What's stopping you? What's stopping you getting Gazza on? There's nothing. Anything's possible.
You called me on a good day, and I said yes, and so there you go.
Thank you very much for coming on. To be honest,
pleasure. You asked me, and I thought, oh God, I'll do that. Yes. So, but I had said on my podcast that I was going to just do a load of podcasts. So I just decided that I was going to do them because I was enjoying talking about football again. I went through a stage where I just stopped enjoying it for a while because it's just like annoying the hell out of me. And I'm just since Blake's been producing my podcast, I've sort of started enjoying it again, talking about football. And I just think it's one of those things. Football's just a constant in people's lives, and I think it's very important.
Do you think you got burnt out with football, having obviously it been a big part of your life for so long?
Good question.
Definitely 100%. Because you live it every day. And then I just got so sick of the fact that no one was having any fun with it anymore. Everyone was too serious, and I got bored with the real fans, as I like to call them, and how everyone was so angry, and there was no one having any fun with the game. In soccer, and we just used to have fun with it, and it was for enjoyment, not for people to hammer each other constantly. Social media took hold with me, and obviously I had a lot of football fans following me on social media. So I had to stop tweeting about football in the end because it was just getting me down. It was just so boring. You'd have a laugh with someone about football and you say that and you just go, you rent boy, just like constant thing. And it's just really weird because your timeline fills up with all these like people just like being so aggressive towards you. And it's like, oh Christ. So I just stopped talking about football. I talk about it with my mates and stuff, but I stopped talking about it on social media and I just couldn't be bothered with reading the constant reams of just bullshit about me constantly and what an arsehole I was and stuff like that. And I remember just every season, just people didn't get it. Every season I'd predict Chelsea to win the league and it would make people so angry, even when City were great. I'd be like, well, why can't people get it? It's like, and then I used to reply to people saying, if you can only criticize me if you predicted Leicester were going to win the league. Otherwise you have no say in it. It's like, because no one predicted that. But yeah, you're right. I got burnt out. It got boring and people just offensive. There's too much of that. It should be fun. Like we're having fun on this podcast. Obviously the three of us are all hammering Blake because of his team, but
I'm used to it, mate. Don't worry.
But that's what it should be. And like the podcast I do with Blake, we just have a laugh with it. And bizarrely, I expected people to hammer us, but they're not really, are they? Everyone seems to be enjoying it. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, I think that's a symptom of social media. I think it's made it. I mean, it's been the news a lot that footballers are getting racial abuse and all that sort of stuff on social media, and that's in part because, I mean, you don't want it, but the fans are behind the screen, obviously on social media, but they've not got they're not being able to do it in the stadiums. They're not being able to vent the frustration in the stadium, so they're doing it all online, and because they're behind the screen, it's even worse. So,
but they should be held accountable like you would if you shouted some of them things in the Etihad, you'd get arrested. So you should be, if that's the case, you should be held accountable for saying it on Twitter, the same as you say in a football ground. It's all new to me. I've started having a little bit at the minute, but you've just got to ride it out, haven't you?
There's something that, because it definitely has increased this season, but for whatever reason or another, it has increased. So they've got to do something about it. What that is, I don't know. We don't have the answers, but like they've certainly got to do something.
I think we actually experienced our first little bit of hate from on Twitter. So I think I commented with the Blue Podcast Twitter about the game, and someone just said, "What's this 2-team blue crap? You guys should fuck off." And I was just like, "Okay, cheers."
Yep, that means you're doing well though.
Well, I don't know. I think the guy had a point.
Oh, brilliant!
All right, well, I think
just plastic.
No, yeah, it was quite funny because a lot of my mates did see that and just started laughing at him on Twitter. So it was nice to see we were backed, which was.
Hey, the bigger you get, the more hate you get. That's one way of recognizing how your profile's growing. So, you know, every time you grow, as Blake's finding to his at the moment, his podcast has got so big, his Derby one, that he's getting abuse now of people who are jealous of it. So that's it. And by the way, I think you should just keep approaching everyone to be on your podcast. People say, yeah, you know, as long as you're nice to them.
Always nice. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we start wrapping things up?
Not at all. No, that's it. Just make sure you tell people to come and listen to our podcast as well. It's the 80s.
Don't worry, I was about to say, do check out their podcast in the description below. It will be there. So do please check them out. I've listened to them quite a bit lately, so I've really enjoyed it. So definitely do check them out. If you enjoyed the video, do please give it a like. And if you're new around here, please hit the subscribe button. We just hit 700 subscribers, which was nice on YouTube. But obviously that 1K is the goal there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. And actually, we'll see you later for a live watch along for the Chelsea-Liverpool game with me, Ben, Cam and Fab. All right, see you later.